Hello, good morning, good morning. Welcome to On the Couch with Dr. Diamond, Miss Rajanta, and Miss Sanella. So I'm going to bring you in, Miss Rajanta. How you doing this morning? You're on mute. Unmute yourself. Yes, so we are welcome back. We actually enjoyed our holiday. Happy New Year to everyone. And I hope you all have made some resolutions that you are really going to stick with. I made some resolutions myself. I want to begin to start doing and creating new things. We talked a lot about self-care before we went out for the holiday. We talked a lot about self-care. So, we want to continue to promote that. So, listen, everybody, why self-care? Why is it important? Because we need to put ourselves first. It seems like to others that are watching that, oh, that's a selfish thing to do, to put yourself first. But actually, it's not. It's something that you got to put into practice. So, whatever resolutions you've made for yourself, make sure you stick with it and be a matter of fact about it, because we talk a lot about holiday blues, depression, before we went out for the holidays. So we just want to make sure that you continue to practice that. Rajanta, what do you think? We went out for the holidays. So how was
Yes.
your new year, and what was your new year resolution for yourself?
Yes. Well, my New Year's was really good. I did local things. I sat, with family and friends. A big thing we did this year that we haven't done in the past, vision boards. It's something that I recently did with my patients as well. And it's simple. Got a piece of paper, got some stickers from the dollar store. Just put different things that we wanted to do this year, our different dreams and aspirations that we wanted to, get into. One of my big resolutions for this year was actually trying to launch private practice and go out on my own, which
Mm-hmm.
thankfully I have successfully been able to do. I don't know how. God and I guess a bunch of praying people. So the
That's
team
right.
behind me that was able to actually usher me along and give me the motivation that I needed to try and be great. So
That's right. That's right. So I'll share my resolution as well. So there's two that I'm really going to work on this year, and that's a lot of traveling and building sisterhood connection. How am I going to do that? Well, I don't talk too much about Candid Conversations. Candid Conversations is actually a women's group that I actually established back in 2020. That came to fruition one day because I was here and I was going through my own personal issues. And I really wanted to do something. And when you say God speaks, God speaks. I was laying on my couch because I was going through my own feelings. And it was like, what, get up because you have a mission to do. And you hear that annoying voice and you're like, this is annoying. So finally I got up and I said, you know what? I am going to create a women's group. And I began the women's group, and I have some wonderful pioneers that actually was a part of my women's group, and they still are. But I'm going to reestablish and redesign this Candid Conversations. So those are our listeners out there. Look for that. Look for what Rajanta is doing, what I'm doing, and also the traveling piece. Just getting out there more, getting myself out there more, so people will know who I am, what I'm doing. Aside of what we're doing now with the podcast. So when I tell people about our podcast, they're like intrigued by that too. They're like, "What? You're doing a lot of stuff." I said, "Well, the thing is, when you're on God's assignment that He
that's
gives
right.
you, you need to get on it and do it, and don't even question what you
Yeah.
have to do. Just do it."
Yes, absolutely. And I think a lot of times fear holds us back.
Yeah.
The imposter syndrome, thinking that you
Mhm.
can't do it because we weren't meant to thrive. We weren't meant to do great things
Yeah.
for whatever reason. Maybe our backgrounds and where we came from. But, it's all about second chances. It's all about reinvention, as you say, and just shining our light. Shining our light, getting out there, helping, supporting, and just trying to empower. That's definitely
Yes.
something I believe in.
Yes. Now you talk about the imposter syndrome. See, a lot of people don't know what that is. Do you mind sharing what the meaning of imposter syndrome is?
Sure. It's something that's quite common. I actually saw a meme on, I want to say what platform it was, on Instagram, about the imposter syndrome, and it's something that, like I said, we all experienced at one time in our life or another. Just feeling that we cannot be who we can be. Just thinking that we cannot be great because some certain doors weren't open for us at one point in time or another. So it's just really getting to know that you are what you
Mm-hmm.
say we are, using a lot of positive affirmations, getting positive people in your circle who support you. Because sometimes we kind of have people in our lives who are toxic, or
Yes.
who may not even have the same goals. Or when you talk about your goals, they kind of think, okay, well, how can you do this? You can't do this. So sometimes that gets in the way, and that also holds us back as well. Um, but the imposter syndrome is when you're BIPOC, which is a new term that is being used,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, because they're saying that a person of color, or being black, it's like a marginalized word. So they're using
Yes.
BIPOC to kind of to lump, a lot of different nationalities of brown people, people of color, into the same category. So it's the disheartening notion of knowing that you have to be stellar enough, stand out in every way, because historically and systematically, our stories are not wanted.
Mm.
And it kind of just really touches on that. We still show up and we show out despite all this. We still try
Yes.
to be our best selves, and we still try to be great, even with all these different
Yes.
hurdles that we have along the way. So just knowing that we're
Yes.
good enough. We're definitely good enough to
No.
be who we are.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Knowing that we are good enough. It's funny. I had a conversation with one of my coworkers at work, and he's one of these people that can like to debate and ask like these questions. So this particular question again was about African American women and how and where we are today. I said, African American women are soaring in education, soaring in entrepreneurship. And he was like, I don't think those facts are right. I said, I'm telling you, those facts are correct
Okay.
because I'm one of the women you're talking to.
All right.
And,
All right.
so he looked at me and he was like, well, I'm going to come back with my facts. I said, and when you do, make sure your facts are current. And wherever you're getting your data from, make sure it's
Hmm.
right. Because you're
Exactly.
talking to someone who has done research and know how to do it. So be careful.
Exactly.
So all my Black and brown sisters out there, remember one thing that you are not is an imposter.
That's right.
You have to fight that feeling of I'm not going to make it. And what we'll talk about today when we get into our discussion today is core beliefs. And core beliefs can also happen with counselors. All
Yes.
right. So when
Yes.
we start talking about that today, we are really going to touch on that as well. But know your worth. So, how do you counteract that voice? So, counteracting that voice is saying you believe and you are not an imposter of yourself. So, you
Mhm.
have to realize who you're looking at every day in that mirror. And anytime you feel you have that mask on, you have to take it off. Fear is real because I have been in that state of fear, and sometimes I'm still in it. And I don't even know why I go to those places instead of just saying, let me try it. Because what's the worst that can happen? It
Yes.
doesn't happen at all,
Yes.
right? But
Hmm.
the worst I can do is not do it at
Yeah,
all.
exactly. And I can definitely relate to that. Just the fear of just growing to the highest level of success that I can. Sometimes, people, especially my family, I take on a lot. I take on a lot, just because where I come from, I'm a daughter of Trenton, New Jersey. So where I come from and the things that I've seen growing up, we didn't have a lot, in the city and things like that. So I take on a lot just because I don't want to fall back into that where I don't have anything. So I wear a lot of hats. I dibble and dabble in real estate a little bit, and this counseling thing, which I love, and which actually came about about 20 years ago. So
Mhm.
I love it. It's fulfilling for me, and I feel as though I'm doing my just to society, and I'm giving back in a way that was given back to me when I was younger. So I think it's definitely important. So I work through my fears, I push through them, and I kick the door down whenever I possibly can. So
Yes, and that's true. So, leading into counselors, so today, of course, our show today is going to be about counselors need counseling because that is true. Why? Because we're human beings and we are going, we're dealing with people that need help from us. So, what do? We, as you said, learn how to we go into this profession saying, we're going to be here to help people, right?
yes,
So then once we figure out what are we doing, what are we here for, why are we doing what we're doing, and why I went in. So let me tell you why I also went into this profession. I started out in the medical field. Okay. So of course that's giving back too. So
hmm
you're uh pushing medication and you're taking care of wounds, and
yes,
then you're dealing with these doctors. Now I have nothing against doctors because I have a PhD. So I can't be, totally against medical doctors, anything like that, because we're still colleagues no matter what.
yes,
But sometimes they can make you burn out as well as uh, your patience. And it
absolutely.
got to the point where I got burnt out. And I said, well, is there something else that I can do
Ex-
differently? And I noticed that people would come in to their appointments and begin to talk to me about their life. I said, oh, I had an epiphany. I said, maybe that's what I'm supposed to be doing instead of this. So I went back to school and I started focusing on therapy. And that's how I became a marriage and family therapist because I wanted to embark on the entire gamut of the counseling world. So that puts me, I having the ability to work with individuals, couples, and families. And it
Wonderful.
gives you a broad perspective and experience with other people. So
Absolutely.
so that's why I went in. But go ahead.
And I just want to say quickly, we're all human, and just because we're a therapist does not mean we don't have problems. Because Lord knows I have my share. Okay, over the years, and actually through gaining education and insight, and just being able to kind of be around like-minded individuals and professionals, I've learned better skills and better ways of coping with things, better things, ways of dealing with it, so that I don't make the same mistakes, so that my issues are actually resolved, they're not lingering, so I can kind of fix it and kind of move on with my life. So we're human.
Mm-hmm.
Just like people, therapists struggle with anxiety. We struggle with stress, divorce, grief, and many other issues. It's important to process these issues so that it won't affect the clients in a negative type of way. Um, with us dealing with different clients, we also um, sometimes take on their trauma, and what that means is their issues become our issues. The burnout rate is very, very high for therapists, just like any other profession. I want to say with substance abuse counselors in my profession, it's just as high. A lot of people within the substance abuse field are in recovery. I would say many. And they take on those tasks, and without the proper resources and the proper coping mechanisms, they tend to relapse. So it's pretty high in this field with therapists that are in recovery and trying to help others who to trying to get to that same place, and they end up relapsing because of the burnout. There's high caseloads. There's just a lot that kind of goes on within the field. And we're passionate people. We're passionate people, and burnout happens. That's why it's very, very important to get counseling if you need it. Check yourself. I know in my field and a lot of other therapy fields, they do supervision where you kind of meet with your clinical director or your supervisor, and you kind of let them know what's going on. Let them know about your problem cases, any type of issues you might have, so they won't spill over into the workplace and we won't end up re traumatizing our patients and the clients that we service. So it's very, very important that we do that.
That's correct. I agree with that. So when you think about the counselor that's sitting across from you, or you as the counselor working with different clients, you are dealing with what their initial complaint is. But not only do you hear the initial complaint, but do you know you're unraveling more of what is going on with them. And as you begin to hear these things, you're hearing their personal and lived narratives. And these narratives are real for them because this is what's bringing them into why am I going through this and how come I can't move past these things. So, as the therapist, what do? We sit back and we try to figure out, how do I help this client? What do I do? And how do I not take on what they have? So
Mhm.
you have what your call is transference and counter-transference. So when you have transference, it is a transference of one person's experience onto the other, or awakening what is going on with that person. So that will be from the client to the therapist. Now your counter-transference is the therapist now.
Mhm.
Trauma is going on to the client. And
Yep.
that is what we don't want to do. So when Rajanta is saying to you, utilize your supervision. And this is to all new mental health professionals that are coming into the field. You are not going to be a superhero. So let's start with that first. So I want to back up a little
Right.
bit about that. You are not a superhero and you're not going to fix every problem. And the other thing, too, you will have some clients that say, I don't want to work with you. Don't
Yes.
take it personal,
Yes.
because it's at that moment they're not enmeshing with your personality. It's not your fault. It is not. But you take that and you say, you know what, I did what I could when I did meet with the
That's
person.
right.
And sometimes as the professional, you can help them get to the next person. But if you're that person that take things on and you internalize,
Mhm.
recognize that you're internalizing the feeling because you don't want it to come back out onto the next client. Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's where you have to be careful, because you can have your guards up and don't even realize you're doing it, you know?
Absolutely.
So be careful with that. So, Rajanta, have you ever experienced that counter transference or transference ever?
I would say early on, you okay, I have different phases in my life in which I
Right.
started out, like I said, I started out about 20 years ago. And this is me before the whole licensing thing, and things were different in 2001, 2002. So I started out working in the criminal justice system, Department of Corrections. Yes, for a program. So it was a counseling program within the prison. I would just say that no one was licensed. No one was credentialed, but that's just where it was in the early 2000s. So I didn't really have much to look to. I didn't really have much to learn from those
Mm-hmm.
individuals. It just so happened I was in school to get my CADC, which is a certified alcohol drug counselor. The difference between a CADC and the LCADC is that the LCADC is licensed, so it's a master's level, so you can practice, you can do private practice on your own. So I was working to get my CADC early on, and it was just I didn't have I don't think I had a lot of guidance. So I don't think that I was kind of working at my true potential because I didn't have anything to go off. So I want
Yeah.
to say early on, and not to mention most of my clients were older than me. So I was young. Everybody was older than I was. So you already know that was a big mess. As time went on, I gained better experience. My educational level increased. I learned more, and I actually experienced life. So I want to say ultimately my shared experiences, my life experiences, in addition to the education and the years and years of experience I received, definitely changed me. It changed my counseling techniques that I use. It changed my empathetic role, to
Mm-hmm.
compassion, that I have grown for people and their different situations. I think that's all a part of me kind of grown into who I am. But to answer that question, I have, right? For example, if I'm treating someone who actually has a past of being, let's say, a murderer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I may think about, okay, well, I have a friend or family that was murdered. I may feel some type of way towards that client or that patient. So we have to know when to check ourselves, when to step down, when to refer out, and when to know that we can't do it, and it's okay. It's nothing wrong with that, and it's just a
Yes.
skill that you learn with time. Like I said, as I've gotten older, as I've grown, um, things don't surprise me anymore. I'm not as
Mhm.
surprised, and I'm not as connected and wired in that way where things affect me like they used to. And I think that comes with age, that comes with growth. I'm going to say maturity, because I'm going
Mhm.
to say, being 21 and 40 something now, I am very different based off experiences, and based off of just different things that I've encountered along the way. So I'm definitely more empathetic than I once was. And I know that life happens. I've always learned to, now I know to meet people where they are, you know, um,
Right.
not judge. So I've learned
Right.
to be non-judgmental, if you will. And everybody's circumstances are different. Everybody that's sitting on the other side of your table, on a desk of you that you counsel, may not have had those same experiences that you had, or may not have had the same opportunities, right?
Mhm.
Because we don't always have the same opportunities, depending upon family, depending on environments, economically being disadvantaged. So it's different. Everybody's different. I'm learning that everybody's human, everybody's different, everybody's walks of life is different.
Yes. Yes, everybody walks life is different. I do agree with that. And for me, what I learned early on too in this profession, I can recall one of my professors who said, I want you to think about who you cannot work with as a counseling professional. Everyone went around the class and they all said what they wanted to say. And when it got to me, I said, I'm sorry, I just have an issue with working with someone who assaulted children, a pedophile.
Mhm,
And he said, okay. So he challenged that thought. He said, okay. However, if the person is there for help and you are qualified to help this person, would you truly do this and turn this person away? And as he began to talk, I could still feel my anxiety was going up about it
mhm,
because I was like, but I know that I may have these thoughts in the back of my mind about this person because I'm talking to this person who has done something to this child.
mhm,
So like you, through experience and maturity and even working where we
mhm.
worked before, you are working with a whole different group of people that come in with different issues.
Absolutely.
And that's when you have to look at folks and say, all right, well, like you said, empathize and understand, but you don't have to agree.
Mhm,
So, as a professional, to remain professional, even if it's something like this. And those of you that are watching us today, if you happen to be one of those counselors that have the same issue that I've had or encounter that feeling, right? Really dig deep into yourself. And if it's something you really can't do, just don't,
that's
because
right.
you know that you're going to have feelings that come out. And when they come out, that client is actually going to pick up that resistance or that
Mhm,
attitude or that feeling of you're not connected. Because
absolutely.
one thing I can say about therapy itself, it is an exchange of energy.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
absolutely.
Right? Because you're sitting across
Mhm.
someone who's a spiritual being
And
like
they
you.
see, they know, they
Yeah.
know when the therapeutic rapport is not being built. Just like we know we sense different things and
Yes.
energy, they know, and they would call you
Yes.
out on it, you know?
Yes, they will call you out on it. So, what happens to a therapist that may be in that situation that they are dealing with someone that's like that? So, what we would recommend is that yes, supervision is a great place to start. You take whatever issues that you're experiencing during that therapeutic relationship and talk about that with your clinical supervisor. Your clinical supervisor, in turn, will give you back some type of recommendations on how to work through things. And sometimes it is good for a counselor to
Mhm,
actually go and get counseling, even
absolutely.
if you go one or two times. Or if you don't want to necessarily go to a therapist, find someone though in the line of your profession, even if it's not your clinical supervisor, that you can entrust and talk to, and they are empathetic to what you're going through. Because if we don't address these issues are going to build, and then in turn, burnout comes. Is what you were talking about,
Yes.
Rajanta, about burnout. Can you define burnout for those that are watching us this morning too?
Burnout is just when you can't take it no more, right? So it may start with you becoming real stressed and irritable with your patients or clients. You may start calling out work. You may just stop showing up altogether. So there's many different things you experience from burnout, and we actually people who are non-therapists experience burnout as well, right? Your energy changes, right? You no longer have the love for the job. Your energy decreases, and you're not being your best self. So when you tend to burn out or experience burnout, or you're leading that direction, that downward spiral, it's best to check it. It's best to get help with it. It's best to put in place some healthy coping skills, so that you can kind of thrive. You can be your best self, and you can actually get back to being a balance. So it's definitely important to create a balance. A balance prevents burnout.
Right. So when we're thinking about balance, you're going to think about things that you would like to do to recuperate, really. Because, and that can simply just be having a conversation with someone, a healthy one, watching a movie that you like,
Mm-hmm.
listening to music, creating a vision board, doing things that is healthy for you. So, a counselor that is unhealthy, that didn't find healthy ways to do something, can be that one that you talked about, Rajanta, that turn to drugs, turn to become, will have maybe turn into alcoholic, have alcoholic problems. They begin to drink. They too can awaken something in them that they never thought they would have awakened, which is a
Absolutely.
mental health disorder that is sleeping. Okay.
Yes.
Some
Yes.
of us that have experienced anxiety can all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden begin to experience panic attacks.
Yes. Yes.
What is a panic attack? So let me describe to you what that is. A panic attack is actually similar to what a person would have if they go through a heart attack. This person is actually experiencing a high level of fear at that moment, to the point that is out of control, and they're shaking, their breath is taken, also the chest is tightening, so they experience all of this, things are happening to their body.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Absolutely.
in their mind, their mind is telling them that they're afraid of something.
Yes.
So for example, uh a person can say, if I go outside, I know I'm going to get COVID. So they challenge that and go outside, but all of a sudden they have the panic attack because now they're on a bus or something with all of these people. So now their body begin to exhibit the fear. So what happens to a person that have a panic attack? The best thing you can do if you ever see it is to try to get them to calm down. Now, what happens when a therapist goes through this? Well, say you're sitting there with your client and you feel yourself doing this. Please, please begin to excuse yourself because you can, and say,
Yes.
you know what? I have to step out of the room for a moment. Go get one of your counterparts, a receptionist, someone that could come in and just sit there for a moment, or possibly tell the person they may have to reschedule. Because you will feel it. And when you begin to feel it, find and center yourself. Go and find someone that can help you calm down. Begin to do deep breathing, because you're going to have to start beginning to de escalate yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And you know what? You touched on panic attacks, anxiety. I guess the way our community talked about anxiety is worry, right? So we
Yes.
didn't used to have a name for it. Well, there was a name, but we just weren't using it within our community. So we think about worry, right? Some people are like worry warts, or oh, girl, they done stressed me out, right? So anxiety increases and it becomes just takes over our mind. So the worry's taking over. You're ruminating. You're up at night. You're stressed out. You're losing weight, right? Because some of us are stressed to the point where we don't eat, right? We become real anxious, we're not eating, or some of us we emotionally eat, so we're stressed out and we eat, right? So it's
Mhm.
many ways that anxiety affects us, many symptoms of it, many behaviors associated with it. Also, social anxiety, that's a big one as well. And like we didn't used to put a name to that. It's just we used to say maybe, girl, I don't like being around people. I can't be bothered with people. I don't want to go to any family gatherings. I'm staying home,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's the worry that comes with seeing that uncle, you right, seeing that aunt, being around that cousin who is, I guess, a scammer or whatever.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be bothered, right? We get these social anxieties. We don't want to be around people. We want to be bottled up in the house. Right. And I know COVID did that for a lot of people, right? We get anxious and worried about being around people socially, what that would look like. And even though nothing's going to happen 9 times out of 10, but we just worry ourselves into a tizzy where now we're riled up. Now we're riled up. We're having panic attacks and we kind of just, slowly decompose, and we're no good, basically.
We're no good. So, yeah, and I touch on anxiety because most people identify with that.
Yes.
Because naturally, we have a normal fear. What is our fear? Or our natural instinct is fight or flight.
Yes.
Okay, so that's natural for us. However, some of us don't know how to control it when it gets to a higher level. So
Hmm.
then it becomes out of control. So look at it this way: if you were to scale it, a normal range of someone that is nervous will fall in between, let's say from 0 to 100, they'll be right in 50. That's normal because that's your normal reaction. When you get to 100 to 1,000, then it is totally out of control at that point.
Hmm.
The what ifs happens.
Yeah.
What if this is such and such? What if I don't make it? What if I go to the hospital? Now you're going to the
Yes.
hospital for a normal checkup, but all of a sudden you have all of these mental health
Yes.
diseases. This
Yes.
is what a person that goes through panic attack does, because they are so worried, like you said, worry wart. That
Hmm.
is in our community. So, to our Black and Brown community, we do want to use our terminology. The
Yes.
worry wart, or I worry a lot. I'm worrying myself to death.
To
You're right.
death. You're worrying yourself to death, and it's really unhealthy.
Yes.
It leads to heart attacks, right? It leads to high
Hmm.
blood pressure, or even thus us who deal with struggle with high blood pressure. We can't be stressed out, right? We got
Yes.
because our nerves are bad, right?
Hmm.
So the anxiety kind of increases those type of physical ailments as well.
Yes. So, moving to another mental health disorder, there is possible, and there's a possibility that other therapists, even though they are therapists themselves, have experienced post traumatic stress disorder.
Hmm.
That is possible. So, what do you do when you go through that? If you are a person that experienced any level of PTSD, and you happen to be talking to someone that really take you back to what that trauma is. Identify that trigger, and again, seek out your clinical supervisor afterwards or colleague. And I say this is try to keep yourself together while you're talking to the person.
Hmm.
Try not to unravel in front of your client. Continue to talk to them, because remember, you don't want to shift gears on them because the therapy is about them. But as the professional, please recognize what's happening to you. If you're feeling like this is unresolved trauma that you never resolved,
Hmm.
then you too need to speak to someone. It doesn't mean you cannot be that therapist for that person, but if you feel like you cannot do it any longer, recognize that. And as a helping professional, you don't have to tell the client everything that you're going through, but you would say, I think I would like to refer you out to someone else that I think can meet your needs. That's all you have to say. You do not have to explain what you're going through. You don't want to do that because that can also traumatize the client. Because you know what they'll say? Maybe what I said affected her or him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to even make the decision to go get help, right? So we
Yeah.
definitely don't want to re-traumatize the client. We want to commend them from coming to get the services and get the healing that they deserve. But just really, years ago, especially in our community, we were looked at as crazy, right? So we weren't allowed to
Mm-hmm.
get therapy. Therapy meant that you were crazy. So I want to just commend everybody who's taken a step. To get therapy. I have gotten therapy many times. I've gotten it when it wasn't popular. I got it when my family thought I was crazy, but I knew that I needed to do what I need to do to kind of get myself together and get myself in order. And I want to say that's the best decision I could have made for my life. Okay, getting counseling, getting the services that I needed to kind of get me back on track and to
Mm-hmm.
really and I guess because I've had therapy, I can really relate to my patients a lot more, what they're
Yes.
going through, the struggles of even coming and being able to say that you need help. So I think in that viewpoint, it was beneficial for me in that way as well. I can relate in
Mm-hmm.
that way. So therapy, um a couple times, to be honest with you, a couple times, family therapy, individual therapy, and I want to say it changed my life. Get you some therapy. Get you some therapy if
Mm-hmm.
you haven't. We have a lot of things that we go through growing up, right?
Yeah.
You want to process that. You want to be able to unpackage that, accept it, process it, and move forward. So a lot of times, even with people who are struggling with addictions, there's a lot of underlying issues, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wakes up in the morning or nobody's born saying, okay, I want to start smoking. I want to start shooting up. I want to start, using lean. We kind of
Mm-hmm.
develop that as we go along, as to cope with uncomfortable feelings, cope with experiences. Like Dr. Diamond said, the PTSD, that's really strong. If I grow up in an environment where maybe I'm experiencing violence or maybe I've seen an event that's traumatic, right? That's going to give me PTSD. And we don't always look at it that way. We think that it's normal because we're in this community and this is what happens. But actually, it's not normal. It's not normal to experience those things. And when we do experience them, we kind of are overcome with different emotions that we fail to process, we fail to identify, we just move on with our life. Many times this stuff kind of creeps up. It creeps up when we least expect it. That's why it's important to identify, accept, and process and heal. I'm definitely advocate for healing. And my mom's probably going to kill me for this, but a lot of us in our community, we just taught to kind of go to church and pray it away, and God's going to take care of it, which that may be true. But we also need to put our work in as well. Therapists and people in the medical profession, they are miracles. God created them; they are miracles. So it's just an extension of the prayer and the spirituality. Medication, that's another thing people take for their mental illnesses. And like I explained to my patients, like it's important to carry on because when we are sick with diabetes, right, we take that medication. Right, we take that medication because it's going to help us, and that's what I explain to my patients. The medication that you're taking for your mental illness, look at it in the same type of way. You take it so it can help you, so it can make you feel better, and give you an even balance.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So, I mean that's a lot of information you just provided, and again, to our listeners, those of you that are listening or looking at us right now, these things are very important, and you can pass this on, even if you're not a counselor or even in the medical field in general. But pass the information on because sometimes people don't even recognize that they are burnt out. They are going through these things or they keep pushing through because they have to. They feel like they have to. But one day you're going to snap and you don't want to do that. So then you're no good to the people that you're trying to take care of. I agree that those that are that was able to get the gift of helping others can be coupled with prayer, coupled with going to church, coupled with medication if you have to have them. Those that are therapists that are possibly taking medication
Hmm.
for their stability,
Absolutely.
there is no shame in that because that's what you need to do.
Absolutely.
I find therapeutic too is that when I am listening and or reading different modalities. So what are modalities? Modalities are just different therapeutic techniques that we use to help our clients. Okay? So early in my life, I lost my mom very early. So this is a narrative I would love to share, and then how I overcame that. So as a therapist, you begin to hear grief and bereavement from other people. And I can actually relate to those who have lost someone early in their life because they're like, how do you grieve when you're 12, 15, 16?
Hmm.
You don't know how to do that. So I understand where they are when they say this. Now, did I seek therapy at that age when I was younger? No. Even as an adult, I did not. But I also had an outlet, someone I can talk to, that I can say, this is what I'm actually going through and this is what I'm feeling, and getting to the place of what does it mean to accept and move forward. So when you begin to identify and catch these things, then you will be able to heal as you're moving along and you're helping others heal as well. One of our audience members said, experience is the greatest teacher. This is true.
Yes.
It
Yes.
is. It is. And you experience a lot of things in your life and also in your careers. So
Yes.
these chosen careers that we decided to do, we did them for a reason. And it's a calling of ours. We heeded the message and we went forward. You know, I know we don't have Miss Sanilla on here with us today, but I know that when we revisit this topic again, she would definitely have a lot to contribute to this topic. And, those that are able to relate to this topic, and even if you're not in this profession, again, utilize some of the information that we are giving you because the everyday person is actually going through something. And to our Black and Brown community, seek counseling if you need it. If
Ab-
you are even in a different profession and you're beginning to feel things and you don't feel right, get help because
Absolutely.
it only take a second to make a phone call, get the referral, and get someone to help you. You can't do it alone. You
Exactly.
need help.
And we promote counseling. We do promote girlfriend talk and girl talk, talking with your family, things like that.
Yes,
But the difference with a therapist, it's non-biased, right?
right.
We ain't gonna share your business with anybody because of confidentiality issues
Yes.
with our license. So therapists are non-biased, right? We are able to and we're able and we're qualified to give you information, to give you the feedback, and to give you the support that you might need to take along your journey. Right? Usually, a therapy session lasts about in between 45 and 60 minutes. They have
Mm-hmm.
all different um, ways of getting therapy now. So they have the in-office approach. They also have virtual therapy. They have telehealth, which is on the screen. You can do phone therapy. So there's really no way, no reason why we can't get the healing that we deserve or the healing that we desire. Right. So there's a lot of things cut out the way where we can kind of access these services readily, more readily than ever before. With the field actually growing and more people that look like us being licensed, it just makes
Yes.
it makes it more comfortable for us, right? We want to really try to talk. I mean, I know for me, I want somebody to know about my walk of life. I want somebody to be able to understand, identify, and understand different things that I've been through. And I get that when I'm talking to somebody. Not to say that I can't get that from someone who doesn't look like me, but when I talk to somebody who looks like me, I'm able to kind of identify that one on one. Okay. And I want to say over this past year, I have been blessed and fortunate to do virtual therapy groups with adolescents and young adults. And I want to say, when I see someone in the group that kind of looks like, when they see me, like their eyes light up, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's not a lot of us. So the eyes got
Right.
light up. They kind of give me the eye, and they are look at me with like, I guess they're proud, right? They look at me with pride, and they look at me like, okay, I feel more comfortable now. I think that you can actually relate to what I'm saying. You can relate to what I'm going through, and you get that connection. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so I think that
Mm-hmm.
it's very important. We're here. We're here. We're growing, and we're here out there more than you know. So definitely look for a therapist that you might be able to relate to, um, and try to weed out the ones that you can. So it's very, very important.
Yes. Yes. I'm going to read this comment, and I want us to answer this comment. We need mental health professionals to be involved in the community more than ever before. I agree with that. We do need to show our faces more, but because when you go on these websites, so let's say I give our listeners a task to do. Here's the challenge: go on Psychology Today,
Yes. Yes.
look at the map of the people. Okay, that's what I want you to do. And I say this because the percentage is so small with black and brown therapists out there. It is very small. So, what Rajanta is saying is 100% true. But I think you're challenging us, you and I and Sanella, to go out there and do more. And we should meet what you're asking us to do. So, our task as we're doing, Rajanta, I just want you to go back to your new business that you have developed. And I want you to
Sure.
talk about that and
Sure.
what you'll be doing in the future.
Sure. So I actually founded Diesel Therapeutics Counseling and Consulting LLC. So that's something that I've been thinking about. But lately, with just the services that I've been providing virtually to a lot of adolescents and young adults, what I find that there's not a lot of people that I service that look like me. So I want to bring these services to the community. Well, I'm able to provide individual counseling sessions in the community. I'm able to provide peer support groups in the community, assessments, and so on and so forth. Just 'cause I think it's needed, right? We're not able to tap into the services the way we like, just because they're not available, right? So I created and founded this company, just because I want to be a help. I want to be a help to those in the community, and I just wanted to really try to encourage, inspire, and be a part of the healing that we need. Um, amongst our lines, amongst just everybody who look like us in particular. There's a lot of us who walk around with unchecked mental illness, right? Um, and it shows, right? You ever look at somebody, you're like, ooh, they need help. That person needs help. So I want to try to be that bridge, that gap to healing. Even if it doesn't work with me, maybe that gap to referring you to someone else who it may work for, and also referring you to the services that you need, helping you develop different coping mechanisms that you may need along the way. So there's many different groups that my program offers. We offer peer support groups for athletes. It's called Amazing Athletes, to try to decrease the pressures that athletes go through, the criticisms they go through, to try to get them to process different feelings, and learn healthy mechanisms to try to prevent them from developing. Substance abuse issues and things of that nature. Also creating a group, a relapse prevention group as well. Also, opioid awareness, accidental, bringing light to accidental overdoses, right? A lot of people who get high, they don't mean to overdose, right? So my group will be for survivors of that, people who survive those, and the people that love them. So I'm just trying to garner support, just to try to get groups together for people who have shared experiences, right? So to be peer ran, for people so they can relate, they can accept, they can identify, and they can process these emotions. And I will definitely be there to process it with them along the way, and just assist them to kind of become empowered.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So again, I will talk about Candid Conversations. Candid Conversation with Dr. Diamond is a women's group that I again established in 2020. However, I am going to re-event this group. So as I start redoing things and through experience of my pioneers, I was able to look at how I'm going to redevelop this for Black and brown women. Okay, so you can find me on Facebook. Again, it's Candid Conversations with Dr. Diamond, and you can always reach out there if you become interested in being a part of a women's group that will develop a sisterhood eventually. So it's just like diamonds in the rough. So that diamond means something. It just isn't
Yes.
because I just say Dr. Diamond. No, it's about the diamond that actually shines through, which is you.
Hmm.
So again, as I am reestablishing this business, just note that I will be eventually in the community doing some tabling events, and I am going to meet the challenge that our one of our viewers has just put out to us. So remember, myself, Rajanta, Miss Sanilla, you have Miss Michelle Matthews, Juan Rios, you have Hyacinth. All of these people that we have interviewed so far is collaboratively working. So when you heard Rajanta say, I can refer you from one person to the next, yes. And this is why we bring on these other groups and people that we're finding in the community that we don't even know about. Um, and I really am so happy that we have been able to speak to some of these different groups so far. So as we go along and we start reaching out to these different businesses and different groups that are out there working hard, and they're getting out there into our community, we will meet the challenge and maybe even challenge them and say, what are you really doing out in the community? Are you going out? What are you doing? The things that we talk about. So when we do question and have them invite them onto the couch with us, we will ask them those hard questions. What are you actually doing to address what's going on in the Black and brown community? And if you haven't noticed, those are the questions we do ask in the end. Like, how are you giving back? Because we should challenge them. We should ask these questions. And yes, it's hard, but that's what we have to do. Rajanta, there is a question for you. Does insurance cover your therapy?
Well, my okay. So right now I am providing quality and affordable care. So it will be self-pay. The peer support groups are $30 each, and that is cheap. So $30 for a 60-minute group. Also providing individual counseling sessions, which are $75. I do provide a sliding scale fee. So if it's something that you can't afford, we can kind of work it out. But by no means, I can't volunteer because
Mhm.
Uncle Biden has my student loans on lock right now, and I got to make my payments back. So I have to be compensated in some type of way.
Yes.
But insurances, I want to say, is a lot of red tape. So I am in the process of getting credentialed to accept Aetna and Blue Cross Blue Shield. Um, that'll be coming within the next coming weeks. But with insurance, I find that they want you to really have a diagnosis to be able to really treat you. And
Yeah.
everybody does not have a diagnosis. So
Right.
sometimes I find that they kind of put or throw a diagnosis on you,
Yeah.
and these things follow you. Okay,
Hmm.
so they put a diagnosis on you for you to be able to be treated. So yes, you'll have a $15 copay, but you'll have this diagnosis to follow you. You know, some of our issues are situational, right? They're not full-fledged anxiety. They're not full-fledged depression. Some things are just situational. So what this does, it cuts that out, and you'll be able to attend therapy at low cost, quality. Over this past year, I have facilitated about 520 group therapy sessions. Okay, so I do 10 a week virtually, and then multiply that by 52 weeks. So I would say that I have kind of gained a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of experience in the area of facilitating group therapy. Okay. Our groups will be broken up into adolescents and young adults from 12 to 17, from 18 and older. That way, you're making sure that you are in the group that best suits your needs, in the group that best fits you. Okay. But definitely go to my website to book a free 15-minute consultation, dieseltherapeutics.com. It's DIESELTHERAPEUTICS. So therapy, excuse me, dieseltherapeutics.com. You can also reach me 609 Okay. So these are telehealth services that I'm promoting. I'm very excited about this. I'm excited about just the different opportunities. I'm excited about you receiving the healing that you deserve and you desire. It's just a new adventure for you and me. So I hope to see you soon.
All right. So, those of you, again, thank you so much for watching us this morning. And again, our topic was counselors needing counseling. Yes, we miss Sanella this morning, but we're saying hi to you because I'm pretty sure you're listening to us this morning. And we would love for you to be a part of our next conversation about this counselors needing counseling. So, remember, to all of you that are in the helping profession, okay, remember to put yourself first. Self-care is important. Recognize the cues that your body gives you. If you feel that you are mentally breaking down, seek out some help. Your clinical supervisor is there for your disposal. Remember, that person is there to help you. You also have colleagues that are also there.
Yes.
And as Rajanta said, these people, therapists, are unbiased. Therefore, these are the people that you do want to reach out to, make an appointment. And remember, you don't have to be in session for years and years on end. But if you need someone to talk to, try to do that. And remember, there is peer counseling as well. So peer counseling is also important because that is also an unbiased way for you to talk about things that might be on your chest. Go to Psychology Today. If you are looking for individual therapy, I am there. Rajanta is there, and I believe Miss Sanella is also there. We are
Yes.
there. Remember that now we're too also establishing our own businesses. So remember to look for us and seek out some help from us, and we would love to help you. So it brings us to the end of another episode here.
Another one. Another
So,
one.
Miss Rajanta, it was great. And to all our listeners, I hope you learned something from us today about counselors needing counseling. Remember that the show will be up on your most favorite stream. So, Apple, Google, podcasts, you have Anchor. So, any one of those that you listen to, just look out for us and listen out for what we are going to be talking about. And for the next up and coming shows, we have something about human trafficking. So please join us for that because that is something that we really, really need to talk about. And but other than that, have a wonderful weekend. The rest of it, have a wonderful new year. Remember to really meet the goal that you set for yourself, which is whatever the resolution is. Hold
Right.
yourself accountable
That's right.
and enjoy. Be safe out there, and we will see you next time. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining on the couch this evening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to contact Dr. Diamond, you may reach her at candidconversations.dr.d@gmail.com. Have a great evening, and we will see you on the next show.
All right.